Good evening. Today is Tuesday, September 20, 2022. The time is 5 p.m. The regular meeting of the following will come to order. The Victorville City Council and the same council also sitting as the Victorville Library Board of Trustees, Southern California Logistics Rail Authority, Southern California Logistics Airport Authority, successor agency to the Redevelopment Agency, the City as Housing Assets successor, Joint Powers Financing Authority, and the Victorville Water District. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Becerra.
Present.
Councilmember Gomez.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
Present.
Mayor Jones.
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, we're going to move on to the introduction to public comments. But before I do that, Madam Clerk, do we have a request to speak on closed session items?
No, Madam Mayor.
All right, any requests via Zoom?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so please set the timer for 30 seconds in the event that we have a member of the Zoom audience who might wish to speak. Is having technical difficulties, we certainly want to come alongside as best we can.
Madam Mayor, 30 seconds has lapsed and I have no speakers.
All right, thank you very much. So the public comment period is now closed and the chair brings the item back to the council. We're going to move on to declaration of closed session items. Mr. DeBortnowski.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. We have 5 items this evening. They are all existing litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 D1. With respect to items A and E, the case names and case names and numbers are set forth on the agenda. With respect to items B, C, and D, there's no further information at this time since disclosure may jeopardize settlement discussions. To the extent there's reportable action, we will report it either at the conclusion of the closed session or at the commencement of the 6 o'clock regular session.
All right, thank you, Mr. DeBortnowski. With that said, we're going to go ahead and recess to closed session and we will resume open session at 6 p.m. We're in recess to closed session. Well, I mean, I don't know if it's like a minute and 10 seconds or because it's. But we're all going to be down there with them. You'll be able to. Yeah. I mean, just run, baby, run. Good evening. Today is Tuesday, September 20, 2022. The time is 6 p.m. And we are resuming the open session of our regular meeting, the following of which will now come to order. The Victorville City Council and the same council also sitting as the Victorville Library Board of Trustees, Southern California Logistics Rail Authority, Southern California Logistics Airport Authority, successor agency to the Redevelopment Agency, the City is Housing Assets successor, Joint Powers Financing Authority, and the Victorville Water District. Madam Clerk, will you kindly call the roll?
Councilmember Becerra.
Present.
Councilmember Gomez.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
Present.
Mayor Jones.
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, we're going to move on to our closed session announcements by our City Attorney, Mr. D. Bortnowski.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. We had 5 items this evening, all of which were existing litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 D1. With respect to items A and E, the information related to the case names and case numbers are set forth on the agenda. With respect to items B, C, and D, there's no further information since information may jeopardize settlement discussions. At this time, there's no reportable action with respect to any of those items.
Thank you, Mr. D. Bortnowski. All right, we're going to move on to the invocation by Pastor Paul Gustanian of the High Desert Church. That'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by our police captain, John Wickham. Will everyone please rise if you're able?
Thank you for having High Desert Church, and we are very thankful for the council and all that you do. Let me pray for us this evening. Heavenly Father, we are so thankful for the council members, those that work and serve in the city of Victorville. I would pray for continued protection over those that serve and work, continued protection for the council. We ask for wisdom for them as they make decisions. They do what's right and just. I pray that you would give them clarity on everything that is before them, the discussions. We pray for continued compassion for our city, continued righteousness and justice. And again, Lord, we are just thankful that you've given us such a great place to live, great people, and a great council, and those, again, that work here to make this place a great place. So we ask these things in your son's name. Amen.
Amen. All right, thank you, Pastor Paul. Thank you, Captain Wickham. Next, we have a few presentations, and we have members in the audience that are going to be participating in that. So at this point, I'd like my council member colleagues to join me in front of the dais for those presentations. Well, good evening, everyone. Well, guess what? Last April, we had something amazing happen here that put Victorville a little bit more on the map. Our Victorville Police Explorers traveled to Las Vegas for the National XCon competition where they competed against 25 other Explorer teams from across the country. They competed in 8 real-world events that tested their skills, abilities, and mastery of police tactics. I'm very excited, as is my colleague council members, to say that our Victorville Police Explorers finished first overall in this very challenging competition. Congratulations from the entire Victorville City Council on this tremendous achievement. We are extremely proud of you for representing the city of Victorville with distinction on the national stage. Now, I'd like to present each of you on behalf of the entire council a letter of recognition. So when I call you, will you please come and join us? Miss Esquivel, come on up. So just so everyone sees in advance, each of our beautiful explorers is going to receive a lovely letter of recognition. I'm not going to read it now, but I hope you enjoy it from the entire council. Mikey Martinez. Thank you. Paul Adams. Miguel Carvajal. Evelyn Martinez. All right, and we have a young man that wasn't able to be with us this evening, but we certainly do want to give a shout out to Gabriel Serrano. We'll make sure that he gets the letter of recognition. Thank you. Yes, and can we have all of you back one more time for a group shot?
Y'all stay in place, stay in place.
Now we have something else very, very special, means a lot in our community. So I'd like to first have a few people come up here with us. Laverne Scriven. And if I could have you at first just stand. Yes, because I'm going to be reading a proclamation. Yes. And Maud Mitchell. Sierra Orr. Francis Flowers. Yeah, I was going to say, bring that baby. And Ella Whedon. And come on up. Come on up. All right, Miss. Oh, baby. So if we can, yeah, just have them on this side, maybe. However, hello, baby. She's so beautiful. Whatever you're comfortable with. Can I? Okay, well, I need to squeeze in. All right, so tonight we have the great honor of recognizing the High Desert section of the National Council of Negro Women for the tremendous legacy of service to our community. This month marks the 40th anniversary of this organization that has done so much to advance and strengthen our families and community. I am pleased to join with my fellow council members to present a proclamation to the High Desert section of the National Council of Negro Women. And because this is a proclamation, it must be read. This is a very important day. All right. Whereas the National Council of Negro Women was founded in 1935 by Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune with a mission to lead, empower, and advocate for women of African descent, their families, and their communities. And whereas the High Desert section of the National Council of Negro Women was chartered on September 29, 1982. And whereas the High Desert section of the National Council of Negro Women works to address education, health, cultural awareness, and economic development in the High Desert community. And whereas the members of the High Desert section of the National Council of Negro Women volunteer their talents, time, and skill to uplift and advance the High Desert community through educational scholarships, awareness activities, and volunteerism. And whereas the High Desert section of the National Council of Negro Women has been a valued community organization in Victorville for the past 40 years. Now, therefore, I, Deborah Jones, Mayor of the City of Victorville, do hereby join the other members of the City Council in proclaiming September 29, 2022 as National Council of Negro Women Day. So in the City of Victorville, we all encourage residents to support the High Desert section of the National Council of Negro Women and its efforts to strengthen family and communities. And isn't that what it's about? All right, congratulations. And who shall I give this to? Yes, ma'am. Thank you so very much. We are blessed. So no one can leave yet until we acknowledge some other really important folks here. We have, of course, our Captain Wickham. We have Sheriff Shannon Dykus with us. Former Captain Bessinger with us. And all the other wonderful, wonderful folks with us. Thank you for being here and supporting your team of explorers. We're very proud. And this is the really nice part of our job as council members, let me tell you. All right, with that said, we're going to go ahead and move on. Madam Clerk, will you kindly present the agenda and any revisions thereto?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There are no revisions to the agenda.
Yes, and you know what? And I do have, I just walked right over. I was so excited about this. We do have another presentation. And this is the Victor Valley Transit Authority on microtransit service MicroLink. Mr. Metzler.
I'm just going to turn it over to the presenter from VVTA.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. My name is Chris Ackerman, and I proudly serve as a marketing manager and PIO for the Victor Valley Transit Authority. And I am proud to present to you tonight MicroLink connecting our neighborhood, but I'm going to wait till we get our presentation up on the screen. We'll wait till they get to the slideshow presentation, please. We almost got it. There we are. There we are. So I am happy to present to you tonight MicroLink, connecting your neighborhood from the Victor Valley Transit Authority.
I'm so sorry. Can I pause you for just one moment? Madam Clerk, we don't have the presentation on our screens. Is there any video or are they slides? And are the slides what we have in our hard copy here?
Yes.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and give it a go.
Okay, great. All right, so if in the back you can advance it. MicroLink is your on-demand shared transit service connecting you to your community and beyond. On October 3rd, we'll roll out MicroLink, our 6-month new pilot program. MicroLink is a micro-transit service, and this new venture I am personally very excited about as it will enhance transit services here in the High Desert community. This is a shared micro-transit service that allows transportation to passengers who live long distances from our bus stops, who want to take local trips in their neighborhood, parents who need extra transportation to get their children to school, and promote shop local to our local area businesses within the zone area. You can go to the next slide, please, back there. We have 3 vans, and they'll be complete to fit 8 passengers plus 2 wheelchair occupants plus bike rack for 2 bikes. We'll also be using one of our paratransit vehicles as a backup. Passengers will be able to download an app or call reservations to schedule rides from 5 days in advance up to on-demand availability. It's a $4 per one-way trip, and every trip comes with a daily fixed route bus pass. So it's great for local shopping, medical appointments, or visit a friend or a loved one. If a passenger wants to travel outside their zone area, MicroLink will take them to the nearest bus stop and drop them off there so they can continue their journey. Initially, MicroLink will operate Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. This 6-month pilot program will cover 3 zones. Oh, I think we're gonna fix it here. Maybe not, we'll continue. We'll cover 3 zones, South Victorville, North Victorville, and Hesperia. But tonight I'd like to go over our Victorville zones with you. If you go to your next page for Zone 1. Zone 1 will cover South Victorville. This is between Palmdale Road, Amargosa Road, Bear Valley Road, and Highway 395. There'll be connections to routes 31, 52, 53, 54, and 58. Some of the services there in Zone 1 is Kaiser Permanente Hospital, Social Security Office, the Mall of Victor Valley, and local businesses like the Family Beauty Salon, Yellow Basket Burgers, and Diva Dog Grooming. We can go to Zone 1 and get that screen up for people. That'd be wonderful. Next, we'll go to Zone number 2. This will cover North Victorville. This is between Hopland Street, Village Drive, Palmdale Road, and Highway 395, with connections to routes 31, 32, 52, and 56. We can go to Zone number 2, please. Next slide. One thing, if you look on your papers, you can see a lot of empty area. Now, one thing in working in real estate marketing for many years is I realized there's no more room to grow down the hill, but we're still growing here in the high desert. And neighborhoods are coming up. And I've talked to some local realtors, and they said probably about next 2 or 3 years, there's a lot of new neighborhoods growing up. So if you look in Zone 2, especially on the left-hand side, you will see that neighborhoods are going to come up, and we're already going to be there providing microtransit service in those areas. Of course, in there, we are here. Victorville City Hall is represented right here in Zone number 2. So if people need to get to City Hall, they'll be able to use MicroLink if they live in that zone area. Also, High Desert Church is in Zone 2, the Holiday Skating Rink, and businesses such as Molly Brown, the Cookie Plug, and Super Slice Pizza. If we can go to the next slide, please. Oh, yes. So our advertising and marketing campaign to let the public know about MicroLink, we're doing an aggressive social media campaign. Of course, news and information on our Victor Valley Transit website, community presentations, bilingual car cards, which you see on your slide and on your papers, radio advertisements and other advertisements with local media, bilingual trifold brochures. We're going to do pop-up events in October at local parks within the zone area to have the van out there to invite the public to come in and see the van and give them information. We'll also be doing a direct mail postcard to residents in all 3 zone areas to let them know about the MicroLink program. Now, we'll go to the next slide, please. To complement MicroLink, we are pleased to announce that Victor Valley Transit will be returning to full service October 2nd, which includes 30-minute services back to routes 31, 41, 43, 52, and 53. Routes will go from 2-hour service back to 1-hour service, basically pre-COVID. We'll also be bringing back Route 50X. This is direct service Monday through Thursday from the Victor Valley Transportation Center to Victor Valley College. Our routes will now be timed with the Victor Valley Transportation Center for more convenient transfers for our passengers. And our Route 15 will now operate 2 trips on Sundays, and all trips will be timed to meet the MetroLink trains down at the San Bernardino Transportation Center. This will help us allow to try to get people off the pass in the morning and have them take the Route 15, and they can catch MicroLink where they need to go to work. And of course, as they always say, as we go to the next slide, and that's not all. Using our operations budget, we are going to be giving back to our passengers. We can get to the next slide, please. And encouraging those who have never tried transit before that October is free ride month. All rides will be free for our fixed route, paratransit, Route 15, and even Microlink will be free of charge for the whole month to passengers in the month of October. I'd like to thank you all for allowing me to share these exciting additions from Victor Valley Transit with the council tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Wonderful presentation. All right, so just quickly, just taking a quick moment, any council members wishing to ask any questions or comments? Member Becerra? Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
I'm already at Microlink and I'm gonna take you up on the ride. I live in zone 2, so I'll be downloading the app, see about getting a ride somewhere. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Gomez?
Definitely. Where's the funding coming from?
The funding is coming from local transit funds through SBCTA.
And how long will the transfer waiting times be? You said it would go from 2 hours to 1 hour?
Well, no, you can reserve through the app or calling a reservationist up to 5 days in advance. So for example, somebody who will need this to go to work, they can plan their whole work week out. Then we'll do it, but it goes up to on demand. Now, on demand will determine the availability of the van being available. That's why we have the paratransit backup vehicle, because if some zone gets extra busy, we can use the backup vehicle for that.
And is this potentially a replica of something, or is this something new that the community would have to kind of understand what's going on?
For this community, microtransit is very new, but microtransit is becoming very popular throughout the whole United States. In fact, this morning, I was actually up in Sacramento meeting with Sacramento Regional Transit Authority, and their program is so popular, they're already up to 9 zone areas that they work. Now, microtransit works many different ways. Orange County uses it just to get through the downtown Disney shopping area, and that's how they use their microtransit system. Other places, cities use it for the whole city. Now, this isn't, of course, to get rid of fixed route or anything like that. This is strictly for an enhancement to our availability, because a lot of the hearing back from the customers we get is, I live 2 miles away from the nearest bus stop. Well, this will help solve that problem.
And will this be available on holidays? You mentioned 2 Sundays out of the month.
That's our Route 15. Our Route 15, which is our service from Barstow, Victorville to San Bernardino and Cal State, San Bernardino. They will run on Sundays, which we've never done before. We've always been Monday through Saturday. When there's a national holiday, of course, we do give our bus operators off and we don't have transit those days.
Okay, and also with people who are students at Victor Valley College, will they have the benefit of waiver costs, or is that something different?
That's something different. Victor Valley College students, options for youth students, and Cal State San Bernardino students all currently ride for free. Microlink is a little bit different. So that won't obtain to that because it's a microtransit service. So it'll be $4 per ride, but we do have a half price discount for seniors, disabled, Medicare, military, and active military veterans. We also will have it available to students ages 6 through 12 at a half price cost.
At the half, okay, half price. And animal friendly, any restrictions?
Same thing with our fixed route service. The rules run the same as fixed route. So animals are able to board as long as they're caged. And same thing with groceries or anything like that. We have a certain limit. If it can fit in your personal space, you can bring it on board the bus.
And as far, I know there's a relationship with the elderly with the half price cost, but have you, or will you be looking into categories such as vulnerable populations, the elderly, to make sure that they have some kind of connection, understand how this works so they can take advantage of it?
Absolutely. And that's why we'll be doing a direct mail postcard drop. We will have so every neighbor or every resident, excuse me, in the zone will get information about Microlink. For those that don't have smartphones, that don't use apps, we do have a reservation number, which will be 760-244-4000. And there will be a bilingual operator on the line ready to help them with any questions that they have. Of course, we do have a website up right now. It's vvta.org/microlink, which has some initial information on the project right now. And we're very excited for this, as you can tell.
So no holidays, limited Sundays. Is that my understanding?
MicroLink itself, are you
Uh-huh.
talking about MicroLink?
Yes, Michael.
Yes, I'm sorry. MicroLink, yes, it runs Monday through, let me make sure I have the right information for you, because I want to give you bad information. Yeah, MicroLink will operate initially Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then it'll just, after the 6-month pilot program, which I believe will be a huge success, it will grow from there. We already have other zones picked out to serve, and then the times will grow from there as well.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. And just a quick question, because I know that you're going to undertake a rather assertive advertising campaign. Are you going to have a booth at the Fall Festival here in Victorville?
Well, we haven't booked one yet, but I think I'm going to have to talk to your
October
PIO. Yes.
1. I don't know if we have any left, but it would be a great opportunity.
Absolutely, it would. We do have a lot of events that we're doing right now, but I will definitely look at and talk with my operations director about participating in the Fall Festival for sure.
Terrific. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Great
so much.
presentation.
Thank you.
All right. And so, Madam Clerk, now I'm going to ask you to present the agenda and any revisions.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There are no revisions to the agenda tonight.
All right. Thank you. Council members, any conflicts of interest to declare? Hearing none, seeing none, we'll move on to the introduction to public comments. Before I do that, Madam Clerk, are there requests to speak?
No, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Anything on Zoom?
Yes.
With that said, let me just go ahead and read the actual introduction. Once again, everyone, welcome to tonight's meeting of the Victorville City Council. Your City Council is interested in your ideas and opinions, and furthermore endeavors to incorporate them into its deliberations. At the same time, the council must be able to carry out its business in an organized and efficient manner, free from material disruption. Therefore, this meeting will be administered in accordance with the council's established policies and procedures and Government Code Section 54957.9. Individuals may speak on agenda items or on issues not posted on the agenda during the public comment section, providing those issues are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. Individual speakers may address the council once per public comment period and once per each public hearing item for up to 3 minutes. Additional time may be allocated for appeal hearings in accordance with the city's adopted policy and procedures manual. All testimony is to be directed solely to the council. Although open meeting laws do not permit council members to engage in dialogue with any speaker during the public comment periods, please know your comments and questions may be taken into consideration by council members when discussing that particular agenda item. The presiding officer may briefly respond or have staff respond to statements or questions, or may request that staff report back at a subsequent meeting. Speakers are requested to speak as briefly as the subject permits. Individual council members who speak as a member of the public do so without the semblance or presumption of authority derived from her public office and are subject to the same meeting rules of conduct and decorum as other public participants. Whether attending this meeting in person or via Zoom, once comments are invited, the speaker will be called on by name, then recognized by the presiding officer. The speaker will state the item number that will be addressed or that the subject is a non-agendized matter. And since this is a Zoom member only, we'll just take it at that. Madam Clerk.
Our speaker is Brendan.
Thank you. Good evening, Brendan, and welcome to our meeting.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Honorable City Council. This is Brendan O'Brien, and I just wanted to take a couple seconds to, again, emphasize the importance and request for lighting in Old Town Victorville. I brought this up a couple times, and I think that everyone agrees that there needs to be something done about the lighting. And I know there's so many issues and things going on in the city that are taking precedent and need to be addressed. However, I do think that there is a general agreement among a lot of the businesses down there, as well as the family center, that there is a critical need for additional lighting. I think we've addressed that in between the streets A, B, C, and D, and the streets 5, 6, 7, and 8, and the including alleys, there's about 104 telephone poles between those the four streets. And of those 104 telephone poles that are currently standing, probably about 10% of them have lights on them. And the others are completely dark. It is very dark down there. And we originally started our discussions about the vandalism and property damage. Now it's getting an increasing to damage to people. And I think it is foreseeable to see and to know that it's going to increase unless we can get some help with the lighting situation. Again, we desperately want to partner with the city to help in any way we can, do a fundraiser. I do know that there are some funds allocated and there are some funds still in the budget, and at 100 poles at $1,000 each. I believe that we can get these installed for under $100,000 because the telephone poles currently have existing power to them. And it would be a matter of getting Southern California Edison out there at a truck roll to get them to implement the lights. And it would be also very, I think, prudent to install wireless cameras as well, so that the city can have surveillance and help offload some of the work that the police are inundated with. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien, as per usual. All right, Madam Clerk, any other Zoom requests?
No, Madam Mayor. However, we did have one public comment from Mr. Landwehr that was emailed to the council earlier and posted to the website.
Thank you very much. All right, with that said, the chair closes the public comment period and brings the item back to the council. You know what? Before I do that, my apologies. Let's set the timer for 30 seconds on Zoom, in case we have anybody out there wishing to speak and is having technical difficulties. We certainly want to be of assistance if we can. I'm sorry? Yes, you can, sir. Welcome. Did you wish to speak to any particular agenda item or another matter?
Well, several.
Okay,
My name is Danny Felix. I have been up here in the High Desert area for 58 years. I attended Victor Valley Junior High, but in those days I was shipped out to Apple Valley. But due to the circumstances, I entered the military at a very young age, and I received my diploma from another state. But I since retired from the cement plant 40 years. And I found myself retired, and I think I'm going to be in the area for a while. And I would like to see positive change and cohesion on the council. And I would like to, I have some ideas that I don't know how to present. I don't know who to talk to. But as I get familiar with the system, then I look forward to working with all of you to better promote the health and welfare of the city of Victorville.
Mr. Felix, we appreciate you and thank you for sharing that with us. We look forward to your future input with the council. Okay, Madam Clerk, was there any time left on the clock for the Zoom?
There was, and we do have a Zoom speaker.
Okay.
Galaxy A12.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to our meeting. Are you with us?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hey, listen, very briefly, I just wanted to chime in on something. I thought the presentations tonight were just fabulous, and it had so much meaning, to the community, and I found them very touching and heartwarming, and I wanted to thank the council for that. That's all I have, Madam Mayor and Council.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate it. All right, Madam Clerk, any other requests by Zoom?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, is there any time left on the clock? Thank you.
30 seconds has lapsed and there's no additional speakers.
All right, so the chair closes the public comment period, brings the item back to the council. We're going to now move on to the first business in order this evening, which is our consent calendar, items 1 through 7.
I'd like to comment on number 2.
Okay, any other council members wish to comment on any items? Thank you, Member Becerra. Which one? Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
No, ma'am. Thank
Thank you. All right, Member Gomez on item number 2, brief comment.
I've corrected myself as a question. What determined its placement to be in this particular item? I'm just wanting to understand the overall, why didn't we place it perhaps like in the written communication? That's my only question for that one.
Thank you. Mr. Metzler?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of council. We've intended to have all the departments work towards submitting for information purposes only. Any statistical information that helps demonstrate what they've either accomplished or the level of services they've had to offer, either on a quarterly or annual basis. So in the case of animal control, it's their turn up, and with that, they have a quarterly report showcasing some of the highlights, I guess, over the last quarter.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you. Member Becerra?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Metzler, kudos to you and your team. Notice that it is a quarter and everything they've done. They had a rabies clinic. They still have the voucher program. All the dogs that were impounded and taken for adoption. Kudos to the staff. This is a very busy fourth quarter to them, and I'm sure they're all like that every quarter from 1 to 4. So the staff's doing a great job. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Becerra. All right, with that said, motion is in order for the council and the council acting on its various boards of directors to approve action on consent calendar items 1 through 7 in accordance with the recommendations presented on the agenda. Madam Clerk, who was, I think the first was Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
And I could not hear the second.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a second by Member Becerra. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Councilmember Becerra.
Aye.
Councilmember Gomez.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
Yes.
Mayor Jones.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Next business in order is our written communications, beginning with item number 8. This is the purchase of Exalu automatic public restrooms at 2 locations, Center Street Park and Brentwood Park. Mr. Metzler, will you introduce the item, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. This item is placed on the agenda to in fact purchase those 2 self-cleaning restrooms and also do a requisite site related design so that we can, at a separate meeting in the future, bring the design package back to you and actually award the actual construction. So this is the first of a 2-step process to effectively get these items installed at the 2 parks. These 2 parks were chosen because there are existing deficiencies at those 2 parks, Center Street and Brentwood, in that they don't have bathrooms. Center Street did, that was demolished. It did have some ADA deficiencies. And so with that, this will help address those deficiencies that exist. And with that, quite honestly, because I think they're kind of neat, we do have a short video demonstration that we can queue up for you. We also have a Mr. Alex Carter from Exalu available for any questions or comments specific to the actual self-cleaning restrooms. But we also have Joe Sleggers, who's your chief building official and the author on this item, for any technical questions or comments you might have.
Right, thank you. So is it a video? Yes. All right. Madam Clerk, the recommendation.
That the city council approve a contract with Exelu Corporation in the amount not to exceed $470,800 to purchase 2 self-cleaning public restrooms for Center Street Park and Brentwood Park.
Thank you. All right. With that said, we're going to move on to technical questions for clarification as it relates to the presentation we just saw and the staff report. We're going to begin with Member Becerra.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Gomez.
Yes. Are there any other parks that don't have restrooms access that were considered for this year's expenses similarly that we can kind of foresee? Or were these the only 2? Even though the report does say there's others, I'm just seeking clarification.
Yes, there are 2 other parks that currently do not have restrooms, and that would be Eagle Ranch and Village Park.
And the next question, are there parks that the city has known about that need similar services? And you just mentioned 2, besides the proposition of Brentwood and Center Street. And with that question that you responded to, it was my understanding that there's one where Gloria, the mayor, used to live. She used to live like by Del Rey, Victor Valley Union High School, like right back there, there's a park. Is that Center Street Park?
I'm not exactly familiar with the locations you're describing, but the other 2 parks I mentioned before are the only other 2 that we're aware of that are not
So,
currently equipped with restrooms.
What is the location of Center Street Park? What area is that?
It's actually shown in the staff report. Let me see if I can pull up the page here.
South Mojave Drive, going towards as you're approaching Hospital Hill.
Okay.
I think the park you were trying to describe earlier, that sounds like Avalon Park, I'm sorry.
What park was it? I'm sorry.
Avalon.
Okay. And how did we define ADA accessibility?
Well, in this case, you have 2 different situations. You have Center Street Park, which was equipped with restrooms initially, but they didn't meet many of the clearance and grab bar requirements, things like that, that are required in order to provide access. And then you have another situation with Brentwood Park where we didn't have restrooms at all. And that in itself is an ADA deficiency.
Okay. And were these part of the the Parks and Rec master plan? I
Yes,
believe so.
definitely.
And did city staff perhaps maybe consider retrofitting the facility, probably abutting a restroom before this alternative?
We did, obviously, in the case of Center Street, we looked into that option, but it was actually a masonry structure, which kind of made it a cost prohibitive option. At that point, you're almost better off spending the money on a new facility.
Oh, and then how many units will it be? 1, and how many bathrooms in a unit?
So each of these is essentially a duplex, 2 single-use restrooms.
Okay, and they're obviously wheelchair accessible, I suppose?
Most definitely, that was one of the priorities in selecting these units.
And I just heard 10 minutes. I don't know if that's just a proposition for the presentation. What happens if someone doesn't exit based on sensory, the 10-minute mark? I mean, are they like warning repercussions? What's going on?
That one actually may be suited best for Mr. Carter, if you're on and you could help us out with that one.
Mr. Carter, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council Member, City Staff for allowing me to speak here. I think the question was, what is the warning period for the 10-minute occupancy timer? And essentially, when you walk in the Exelu, there's signage exterior of the building that warns of the 10-minute time limit. When you walk in the restroom, we can have voice messages that also display a 10-minute time limit. At 9 minutes, it starts repeating vocally a message that the time is about to expire. At 10 minutes, an audible alarm is played to warn of the restrooms opening. At 11 minutes, if a participant has still not exited the restroom door will open completely before being able to close the restroom again for 10 additional minutes.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. So with that explanation, the next question crops up. So if it opens at the 11th minute and someone basically is still kind of naked, And can we try to mitigate some of those instances, or we're just gonna wait till something happens? I just forecasting what potential things could occur. Have we thought about anything like that?
Is that an option we could look into, Mr. Carter? I don't know on that one.
The two full minutes of warning messages, we can add an additional light that flashes when the door is being threatened to open on someone. We have many of these restrooms installed through California, LA, Napa, Watsonville, Oxnard. We have not had issues with that 10-minute time limit opening on patrons. And it's a feature designed to prevent residency in your restrooms and to keep them open for public use and not abused by any particular individuals.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Metzler, did you have something to say?
No.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, so just a couple real quick questions. I mean, 10 minutes seems like an awfully long time to me. Do we have the ability to reduce that time?
Yes, that number is customizable to whatever you see fit.
I mean, because I just, I don't know. And then with a sharps disposal, is that really meant for people that might have diabetes or some other illness and they need to, because certainly we're not going to.
Correct. I don't believe your restrooms have been selected with sharps disposal.
Okay.
This is a video that we use in several world markets. And it is an ADA requirement or the Australian equivalent to include sharps disposal in all Australian restrooms.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And I have no further questions. Mr. Metzler, did you have anything to add to the presentation?
Nothing further by myself at this time.
All right. Thank you very much. With that said, the chair invites a motion from the council.
Motion to approve staff's recommendation.
Thank you. We have a first. Is there a second? And we have a second by Mayor Pro Tem Irving. Discussion on the pending motion, Member Becerra.
I just have, with us opening our wellness center, the people that might want to stand naked in a shower, in a toilet to sleep there, will have a place for them to go to in our wellness center now, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you. No further comments.
Thank you. Member Gomez. Excuse me, Mayor Pro Tem.
Not a problem. I just wanted to say I'm really excited about the installation of the automatic public restrooms. They seem really cool to me. I like the automation, and the technology. So I'm excited about the installation.
Thank you. Member Gomez.
Yes, so I was a little bit concerned about the door just opening. We have a lot of mental illness individuals in our community, and indecent exposure is a crime. And I was just thinking ahead of some of these circumstances. I know we're doing our best, but we always have to come up with those questions, what ifs, because there's not ifs, but there's whens. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Gomez. The chair has no comments on the pending motion. Closes the discussion period. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Councilmember Becerra.
Aye.
Councilmember Gomez. Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
Yes.
Mayor Jones.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. So the council has taken action to adopt staff recommendation. Moving on to item number 9. This is the purchase and sell and a joint escrow instruction agreement with the Orimor Management and Investment Company for the sale of real property, more particularly described as assessor parcel numbers 3106-261-12 and 3106-261-13 pursuant to the approved long-range property management plan and contingent upon receipt of countywide oversight board approval. Mr. Metzler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. This item, you're actually acting in the capacity of the successor agency board of directors, which your role in serving in that capacity is effectively to dissolve the formal redevelopment agency. And as a part of that dissolution process, there were a number of assets, real property that were on the books that were required to be sold. These are two of almost all the properties. These are two remaining properties, I should say, totaling about 4.95 acres that have been on the market for quite some time. This is property that was originally purchased back in 2006 to help facilitate auto mall expansion. But with the property having been on the market for some time, this property finally got an offer that is acceptable and very competitive to the actual appraised value. In fact, the price offered on this property is slightly greater than the appraised value. So with that, this item is brought forward for your consideration. If approved, and ultimately the escrow closes, all of the proceeds will then be collected and distributed to the county tax collector, and then distributed to the affected tax entities that were a part of the former redevelopment agency. So with that, I'm the author on this item, but also helping me with this item is Mr. Tony Camargo, and we're both available for any questions or comments you might have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Metzler. Madam Clerk, the recommendation.
That the Honorable Board of Directors approve Resolution RSA 22-007, approving and authorizing the execution of a purchase and sale and joint escrow instructions agreement, subject to minor non-substantive changes with the Ormer Management Investment Company for the sale of APN number 3106-26112 and 3106-26113 pursuant to the approved LRPMP and contingent upon receipt of county oversight board approval. Adopt resolution number RSA 22-008, amending the annual budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 to recognize the sale proceeds and authorize the city manager or his designee to execute the purchase and sale agreement and related escrow documents to effectuate the sale.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, moving on to technical questions for clarification, beginning with Member Gomez.
Yes, aren't these properties amenable for expansion of city goods and services?
No, in fact, we're required pursuant to the dissolution process to actually dispose of the property.
And what has stopped the city? Bear with my questions because these questions are free-form before I hear any details to this. So what has stopped the city from planning future expansion of these nearly 5 acres?
Well, specific to these properties, it was the dissolution of the redevelopment agency that kept the city from doing anything further with these properties.
And can the site go to the city commission, so the planning commission, and have a PUD for mixed use for other LRPMPs for the California Department of Finance approving?
Not related to the LRPMP process. Once the property is sold, the buyer of the property then is subject to the same process any other private development would be subjected to, which is developing consistent with our code and development standards. In this particular case, I believe the property is zoned general commercial. So effectively, the buyer would, if they want to develop it consistent with C2 to the extent they wanted to develop to perhaps the more unique standard of a PUD. That's something that certainly they can talk with staff and consider. And if it's something that's supported, can be taken through to the planning commission for its deliberation.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So that necessarily means, or the city can't, it has to dispose of it. So we have a buyer and the buyer can do the expansion or whatever it needs to do, but the city's not allowed to do that based on certain requirements from, I'm supposing is the California Department of Finance and the LRPMP.
Correct.
Okay, disposing of the property gives other individuals the opportunity, such as private or public entities, to purchase. Is there certain requirements where it's like off limits for the general public to be able to purchase, but instead more like a bidding process that's open to certain agencies, or is it open to everyone?
This property has been available for sale on the open market, so available to anybody.
Okay, and looking at the affordability covenants for restriction for occupancy in units, and it's talking about low and very low income. The page that refers to is page 219, a letter that was, I suppose, received from the Housing Policy Department. how does that function when we're looking at the affordability of the covenants? Meaning when we have a public agency or any other person coming in to purchase it, how is that going to function? Because it looks like we have some kind of covenants that are restrictive already.
Not relative to affordable housing. Actually, the document that's on 219 is more so speaking to a procedural requirement we had to go through and have already gone through with respect to complying with the state of California's Surplus Land Act. So before disposing of the property, we actually had to effectively go through this process, to determine whether or not the property could be made available to further the state's goal of providing affordable housing. This letter effectively gives us the clearance to proceed in also identifying that we've satisfied the Surplus Land Act requirements and we can proceed with the sale.
And the appraiser, was it an external or was it within the city?
External, we don't have internal appraisers.
Thank you. Appreciate no further questions.
Thank you, Member Gomez. Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
I just have one question. I'm just curious. Are we aware if this management and investment company, they have a vision or plans for this parkway?
We are, in fact, we have had meetings. We actually, up until, I guess over the course of the last 60 to 90 days, have been approached. We actually saw interest in this property, and thankfully in this particular case, the entity that's proposing to purchase not only is offering the most, they actually have a vision to develop for auto uses. In fact, the owner in this transaction is actually the owner of one of the auto dealers in our existing auto park.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Member Becerra.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question kind of goes hand in hand with Mayor Pro Tem. I understand the east side of the street is the auto mall. Is the west side also considered the auto mall?
Of Civic Drive, you mean?
Yes, ma'am.
It had intended to be used for that, especially as we could acquire more property. We started down that process with these properties. Everything south of and west of Civic that still exists is still in private hands, and we were never able to basically take down the rest of the property to control it for auto park. But effectively, the auto park, as it stands now, is east of Civic Drive and straddles I-15 to the east side of I-15.
And it sounds like you said that if approved, the new owner is going to continue down an auto type business there?
The buyer's core business, I can tell you, is automotive sales.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, sir. No further questions. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And so it's not formally a part of the auto park, so it's not part of that original CUP that was laid out when that auto park came to be?
No, but they certainly could work with the association and become a part of that.
Okay, terrific. All right, the chair has no further questions and requests a motion from the Board of Directors for the successor agency to the redevelopment agency.
Motion to approve, Madam Mayor, staff's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second that.
Thank you. We have a first and a second discussion on the pending motion. Member Becerra?
Discussion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yes. Mayor Pro Tem?
No, ma'am, thank you.
Thank you. Member Gomez?
Not at the moment.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said 1 moment.
Oh, no.
You don't have any. Terrific. Thank you. My apologies. All right, and I have no discussion on the pending motion. Close the discussion period. Madam Clerk, the vote.
Councilmember Becerra.
Aye.
Councilmember Gomez.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
Aye.
Mayor Jones.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. So the Board of Directors for the successor agency to the redevelopment agency has adopted staff's recommendation as presented on the agenda. Moving on to item number 10. This is a receive and file item of the annual single audit on federal expenditures report for year ended June 30, 2021. Mr. Metzler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. This audit is specifically done for federal funds received, particularly coronavirus relief monies, the CARE Act monies, CDBG COVID-related monies, along with ARPA. And so like we do annually, we do audits, individual audits as this case is, basically to audit everything in terms of the money, but also the internal policies with respect to the use of those. So this item is the result of that audit. The author on this item is your finance director, Mr. John Mendiola. He's certainly available for any questions or comments you might have.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
That the city council receive and file the fiscal year 2020-2021 single audit.
Thank you. So we're going to move on to technical questions for clarification as it relates to the staff report. We're going to begin this time with Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
Actually, I don't have any questions. This report is very.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. All right, Member Becerra.
None right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Gomez.
Yes, what were the corrective action plans initiated by the city? I did see a delineated page of several of them. They weren't numbered, so I wasn't sure if those were the ones that I should look at as the ones that were the corrective action, even though it does say corrective action plan for such year.
So yes, there are 3 new corrective action plans given for the single audit. They are numbers 6 through 8, and they deal with hours that you for timesheets on doing federal fund projects. So there was a anticipation where the departments use budgeted estimates to do their hours instead of actual hours. So that was a finding by the auditors. So we have corrected that by using electronic timesheets along with supervisor approvals on those. We're also enacting some GIS layering to make sure that those hours are actually on the premises of those areas that are approved for those fundings.
Thank you. And what were the deficiencies found and what years were they referring to? That question is more pertinent. Not too long ago, we had an audit and I felt like this was like a combination of many of them. So I'm just seeking clarity.
Yeah, so if you look at the very first page of the staff report, it talks about that this single audit usually goes hand in hand with our annual audit.
Oh.
But because of the federal funding and we were waiting for the guidance from the Treasury Department on how to approach, like Mr. Metzler had mentioned, the CARES funding, some of the ARPA funding, those new COVID funding mechanisms and resources for state agencies, that once that came about, they extended it to the end of September 30th. So we're able to finish the single audit with our auditors. They submitted it to the reporting agency at the Treasury on, I believe, September 2nd. And so we're in compliance right there and we're just bringing it to council for a receive and file.
And so this is something done annually when it comes to the single audit that's performed?
Yes, this will go hand in hand as we continue to do our annual regular audit. This will go hand in hand with that audit. So there'll be both of those together. It was just because of the federal funding, there was a delay in the guidance getting out to the agencies.
And is the Clifton Larson Allen LLP firm, are they someone that was hired by us, by the federal government?
No, they were hired by us.
Okay, and so this is coming from page 253. Why are we addressing the item as part of the city's corrective plan as inferring some type of weakness in certain areas? And maybe it's not a weakness, but if you can clarify, maybe you've done so, but specifically for page 253.
So what happens when you do an audit, what it is you're taking an unbiased party or a firm to come in and take a look at your processes, your internal controls, how you're accounting, how you're financially accounting for all the funds that come into the city and leave the city. And in doing so, they come up with recommendations or findings that they see that you can gain new internal controls or strengthen your internal controls or your business processes to create efficiencies, to create more accuracy, and to create more accurate allocations of the funds coming in and coming out. So in that respect, when they do an audit, they do have findings for you, for the agency, and in turn, we use that to hone in our internal controls. We use them as best practices going forward. We implement new business processes to make sure that those findings don't continue in the following years for any future audits.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Member Gomez. And the chair has no questions and invites a motion to receive and file the annual single audit on federal expenditures report for the year ended June 30, 2021.
So moved.
Thank you. We have a first and a second. Discussion on the pending motion, Mayor Pro Tem.
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Member Becerra?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Member Gomez?
Yes, so I appreciate the explanation. I thought I had seen multiple things happening in the audit. And I didn't realize that because of the issues that you explained, we're looking at not just the regular annual, but now we're incorporating COVID-19, which is something fairly new. So I appreciate that explanation. No further anything or questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Gomez. And the chair has no comment on the pending motion. Discussion period is closed. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Councilmember Becerra. Councilmember Gomez.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
Aye.
Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. So we've adopted staff's recommendation as to item number 10. Moving on to item number 11, local transportation fund claim for fiscal year 2021, 2022 in the amount of $1,135,102. Mr. Metzler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and members of the council. LTF, also referred to as local transportation funds, are monies that are administered first to address public transit needs. And to the extent residual monies are left over after public transit needs are satisfied, those monies are available and passed through to agencies such as ours to basically use to supplement its funding for local road maintenance. This is an item that, as a part of the budgetary process, we did not expect to actually receive, so we're pleasantly surprised to be here tonight, actually asking the council to first approve the claim for these monies that are available to us, and then also make the requisite appropriation on the revenue side. So with that, the author on this item is your Director of Public Works and Water, Mr. Doug Matthews. He's available for any questions or comments you might have.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Metzler. All right, Madam Clerk, the recommendation.
That the Honorable City Council authorize by minute action the adoption of resolution number 22-016, approving an additional revenue appropriation of $1,135,102 for the LTF fund in fiscal year 2022-2023 annual budget, and the filing of the LTF Article 8 claim form for fiscal year 2021-2022, requesting to receive the balance of an apportionment in the amount of $1,135,102.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, questions for clarification as to the staff report? Member Becerra.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Metzler, sorry, Mr. Matthews. Mr. Metzler, you touched on it. You said this was from SBCTA and we were surprised we got it. We're surprised we got it because we're no longer going to get these funds, correct?
I don't know the exact formula or how their calculus works, but I think it is safe to say, similar to what we shared at the budget presentation, is that these funds are becoming increasingly difficult to rely on going forward. So we'll do our best to continue to try to make budget projections, but we still, especially with respect to some of these road maintenance items that get affected, if LTF is not available, we're going to continue to identify other funding sources.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Member Becerra. Member Gomez.
Yes, the amount of approximately 1.1 million is afforded by requirements that's layered out in the TDA and the LTF aligned with the county taxable sales along with the revenue. For these appropriations, are we considering is the county or are we being appropriate any excess that's based on the percentage that confines the 1.1 million? Because you look at the reporting and there's figures showing percentages for statewide sales tax and along with the local sales tax. So I was wondering if those two are separate from the $1.1 million.
You're going to have to help me. Let's see, where are you at exactly?
So if you look at page 264, second paragraph, it talks about statewide sales tax and the local tax rate, and it gives percentages.
Okay, and I'm sorry, what is your question?
Yes, so the 1.1 million, is that a composition of both of these percentage taxes, or is that something completely different?
It's derived from those percentage of the sales tax.
From both the state and local?
I believe so. Is that correct, Mr. Matthews?
Yeah, it comes from a 1.25% local
tax rate that comes to us.
So, that's only from one source, not from the secondary source, which was the statewide sales tax.
It's part of the statewide sales tax.
Okay, so then both the statewide and the local tax? Is that the combination of both that's within the 1.1 million approximate?
The answer is yes. The statewide sales tax is a much larger number, and I think this is breaking it down to the much more local level, but we're familiar with sales tax being, say, for example, 8.75. If you break down the components that aren't related to transportation, it comes out to be the 1.25. That's why we're focusing on the 1.25, but it's a derivative of the statewide sales tax.
Okay, and then is my understanding that somehow the county has some kind of discretionary means if it figures certain requirements? And in consideration of that, does that mean that we had to do, I don't know, befriend or show some kind of requirements that we need to get these types of fundings if they're indeed, very difficult to obtain? In other words, what did we do to obtain these funds?
They're formulaic, I can tell you that. I don't know the exact formula. I don't know if Mr. Matthews, you do, or even if Mr. Gangler sometimes is familiar with how the formulas work for LTF type fundings.
The only thing I can say on that is once they determine what the transit agency needs and there's no unmet needs, whatever is left over comes back to the local entities.
And that's exactly what I was trying to understand. How is that related? Is that just more of a discrepancy or is what you said more formulaic?
My understanding is it's much more formulaic, starting with the population and where it's generated.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Member Gomez. All right, Member Tim.
I do have a question. I think I got lost in the weeds there. Did you suggest that in the future, we may not be able to rely on these types of funds, meaning LTF funds?
LTF specifically, yes.
Are you suggesting that we may not receive claim forms for your annual claim forms?
It is possible. And in fact, the way we budgeted for this year, we weren't expecting to get this claim form for this money, because we had information as a part of the budgeting process that was telling us this money was not going to be available. So it is possible that again, next year, let's say, for example, public transit needs increase to where they put a greater strain or demand, I should say, on LTF. If in fact that happens, it's definitely expected that there's going to be a less amount of share, possibly zero, to actually distribute then to local agencies like ourselves for remaining roadway maintenance needs.
And just as an example, we got $41,000 last year in comparison.
Okay, thank you very much. Right.
All right, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So just a couple questions. So, and Mr. Matthews, you hit it pretty well. So historically, Victorville has gotten some money annually when everything in the VVTA budget was met and there was excess in the budget, and it would go to the local roads. And that's not just Victorville, it's Hesperia and other cities as well. And so some months ago, the San Bernardino County Transportation Authority, well, I sit on the board. So the board's decision was, overwhelmingly in favor of those monies going back to the regional purpose or what they believe that to be. So I know that when we did the budget on this, Mr. Metzler, we actually had the $1 million in, and then when we came back for the other budget discussion, we took it out. And now we have it again. So it really is a pleasant surprise. I mean, so much so that when I read this, I actually had it backward because I was just not expecting it. So anyway, good job in bringing this to us. And I'm glad that we're going to get the $1 million. All right, with that said, the chair invites a motion from the council.
This is what, file, receive and file?
No,
Sorry, send out a I'm sorry. Yes.
if that's what you want to do. Yes.
All right, I second that.
Are you making the motion or?
Oh, no, it's already been made. I'm second, yes. I
Who
couldn't
made it?
formulate
Did-
my,
Hold on. Member Becerra, you made it. All right. We have a first and a second discussion on the pending motion. Member Becerra. Mayor Pro Tem.
I don't have any.
Thank you. Member Gomez.
No, no comments.
Thank you. Chair has none. Discussion period's closed. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Councilmember Becerra. Councilmember Gomez.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
Yes.
Mayor Jones.
Yes. All right. Item number 12. This is the capital project needs analysis for Green Tree Boulevard Extension, Bear Valley Road overhead at BNSF Railroad projects. Mr. Metzler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. This item is effectively a procedural requirement of SBCTA, and we're required, as we depend on local major highway funds through SBCTA, to submit capital needs, basically identifying the amount of money that's necessary to complete, in this case, two projects, the BNSF Railroad project, the overhead, Bear Valley Road overhead of BNSF, and the Green Tree extension as it's currently under construction. These documents, once approved, get submitted to SBCTA and help them for their cash flow control. So with that, the author on this item is your city engineer, Mr. Brian Gengler. He's available for any questions or comments you might have.
All right. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, the recommendation, please.
That the Honorable City Council approve the capital project needs analysis for the Green Tree Boulevard extension and the Bear Valley Road overhead at BNSF Railroad project for fiscal year 2023-2024 through 2027-2028.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Questions as to the staff report, beginning with Member Gomez.
Yes, what phase, when I say this project, it refers to the overhead of the BSNF and also the Green Tree Extension project that we have going on. What phase is this project in, and approximately do we have a completion date?
We do have an estimated completion date. I think it's sooner than we had envisioned when we first broke ground. Mr. Brian Gengler is in the audience. He's the best to answer those questions.
Yes, thank you, members of City Council. Which project were you asking about, or was it both projects?
For both.
Okay, so we've been telling the public before for both projects, the spring of next year. Precisely when they'll complete, it's a little bit difficult to predict. Mainly because part of it depends on remaining work in the BNSF right of way. The Green Tree project is more predictable because they've completed almost all their work in the BNSF right of way. So it is possible that project could be completed by May of next year. For the Bear Valley Road overhead project, it's much more uncertain because their fourth quarter shutdown for BNSF is going to start in October, and they probably will not allow any work in the right of way. And depending on how far they get, in the remaining part of this month, may determine when they complete that project. So that project is not as predictable at this point. So I can tell you it might be spring or early summer for Bear Valley Road.
Okay, that's Bear Valley Road overhead, right? For BNSF, you're speaking of. And my next question is, at what stage is the needs analysis conducted? We do have it before us.
Well, it's done just prior to submitting the staff report annually. The funding hasn't changed for either project. It's the same as it was before and consistent with the funding agreements that were approved by City Council.
So when I ask what stage, I'm envisioning that there's probably four stages, just to simplify it. And a stage would be midway there, or, you know, we just started, we haven't even met the midpoint. So that's what I was asking for, like what stage, or like at the tail end of the stage, mid, more of the beginning stages, that's where the needs analysis is required.
Well, we have to submit this annually. It's due by the end of September every year to SBCTA.
Okay, so basically this is an ongoing project. So from beginning to end, which we're trying to look at the approximated dates, we don't really know, like you were saying, maybe spring next year. So we've been in this process, how long now? This is the third year?
Yeah, I think it'd be the third year, correct?
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Member Gomez. Mayor Pro Tem.
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Becerra.
Mr. Gangler, you touched on it. BSNF shuts down and not shuts down. They don't allow us in the right of way and basically for Christmas because everybody, they're moving everything. We have no control of that, correct?
Correct.
They tell us when we can work. So we're on schedule, we're on time, but because of what they ask from us, we can no longer move onto their right of way.
Correct. As of this week, we're on schedule, but there could be delays.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Gangler. Good job. Understood. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Becerra. So actually, this is good news to me because I was at Green Tree, I thought was going to be much further out. And same thing with the Bear Valley Bridge widening. I thought that was going to be probably closer to the end of the year. So for me, this is good news. But let's hope it stays that way. So, all right. The chair has no further questions and invites a motion from the council.
Motion of staff's recommendation.
Second.
Thank you. We have a first and a second discussion on the pending motion. Member Becerra.
Discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Discussion.
Thank you, Member Gomez.
Yes, it's always really important to try to understand how many projects, deadlines, and how long we've come along, because I know if the public isn't here, it just, backtracks, and it seems like something fairly new, but it's obviously something that's been in the works, not 3 years, but over 20 years. And finally, last 3 years, we've had some actual movement here. So thank you for allowing me to bring that and have an understanding as well.
Thank you, Member Gomez. And the chair has no comments on the pending motion. Discussion period is closed. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Councilmember Becerra. Councilmember Gomez.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
Yes.
Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. So the council's adopted staff recommendation is presented on the agenda. Moving on to item number 13. This is the amendment number 2 to a consultant professional services provider agreement with Hinderlinter, Delamas, and Associates for Measure P use and transaction tax audit services. That is a mouthful. Mr. Metzler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. Yes, this item is effectively amending to expand the scope of work with the firm commonly referred to as HDL. They're among the more recognizable sales tax consultants providing services for cities, at least through California, throughout California. And they've actually been working with us for quite a long time. They have principally been responsible to us in serving as our sales tax consultant and helping reconcile all of the sales tax receipts for the reasons of us being able to budget and predict our sales tax generation to the general fund. As we were successful in having Measure P adopted as a transactions and use tax, we didn't know the exact cost on an annual basis of the scope of work. But as it's turned out, based upon having worked enough with Measure P, it's appearing as if it's very similarly natured, if not identically natured, in the type of work that was previously done for the sales tax. So with that, there has been a need to amend the contract with HDL as the scope of work has increased, almost doubled the work with Measure P having come on board. So with that, the author on this item is your Finance Director, Mr. John Mendiola. He's available for any questions or comments you might have.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Metzler. Madam Clerk, the recommendation, please.
Staff recommends that the City Council approve amendment number 2 to the consultant professional services agreement with Hinderlinter, Dayamas and Associates for Measure P use and transaction tax audit services for the current year in an amount not to exceed $150,000. and approve resolution number 22-017, increasing the budget to cover this agreement amendment.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, we're going to move on to questions for clarification, beginning with Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
No, I think Mr. Metzler's presentation suffices. We're simply expanding the scope of work for the consultant. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Member Becerra?
No questions. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yes, thank you. Member Gomez?
Yes. Is there a percentage that is allocated between the goods and services to divide the monies equally based on what categories were present when it was voted in as the general tax? In my mind, what I see is categories with Measure P. So I'm just asking if within those categories, we're kind of like checking the box, making sure we don't overexpend or overuse on this area versus that area, or if that's even a part that we should be thinking about.
There wasn't a concept of actually allocating specific amounts amongst the expenditure items. There was no concept of allocating certain percentages in part because that could have caused the interpretation of the tax to be a special tax as opposed to a general tax. So when the measure was crafted and approved by the council, it was approved really with the intent that it serve on a general basis to support public safety, but also other general essential services.
Thank you. And how long in terms of times have we been working with HDL?
HDL has been working with the city as far back as I can remember, but I don't know. Well, and as far back as I can remember is at least 20 years. But I don't know specifically when they first came on board with the city.
Okay, and when was the last time that we put a request for quote? And are there other individuals, companies that we'd even entertain? And if we didn't, maybe it's because of our relationship, or maybe they know, well, why are we still here with a second amendment? I felt like it would probably be like the 49th Amendment or something.
Correct. And so, yeah, we haven't had to change the scope much because the nature of work hasn't changed over time. It's largely been the same analysis for a single revenue source. So that's why we wouldn't have had, say, a 49th Amendment over the course of time. But to answer the question, we have not entertained, as far back as I can remember, soliciting for another professional service provider, in large part because HDL is a company that we've actually been satisfied with. It's a very specialized nature of work that's hard to duplicate. In fact, there are not many firms out there that I'm aware of that do the same work. And because we've basically been pleased with their level of service to the city, we haven't had a reason to jeopardize our relationship with them in this complex sales tax reconciliation that they do for the city.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Member Gomez. And the chair has none on this. I got all of the information I needed during the agenda prep. And so with that, the chair invites a motion from the council.
Motion to approve staff recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a first and a second discussion on the pending motion. Member Becerra.
Discussion.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
No, ma'am, thanks.
Thank you, Member Gomez.
Yes, just maybe sometimes look into an RFQ and see what others are bringing maybe next time. That's just a comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's not been direction given by the council. Chair has no comments on the pending motion. The discussion period is now closed. Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Councilmember Becerra.
Aye.
Councilmember Gomez.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
Yes.
Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. So the council's adopted staff recommendation is presented on the agenda. Moving on to item number 14. This is the community survey results. This item was placed on the agenda at the request of Mayor Pro Tem Irving. Mr. Metzler, I'll ask you to tee up the item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. We do have a brief presentation from your Public Information Officer, Sue Jones, in direct response to the request for this item. But I think I'd first kick it off by saying and identifying that certainly we as staff have appreciated your support over the years in allowing us to develop what I would characterize as a fairly robust communications and outreach program. And largely because and led by Ms. Sue Jones. We've established a fairly wide network of folks to connect with using a whole bunch of different mediums. And one of the things that we have as a service to assess how we're doing is we have contracted with a company called Zen City. And they've actually done a lot of monitoring of our community sentiment based upon feedback that they're seeing in social media sources and things of that nature. So as a part of our service with Zen City, they actually offer us opportunities to poll and do surveys to see if we can better refine our messaging campaign. So this last survey that was done this last May was a product of work offered by Zen City through our contract with them. And so with that, we have Ms. Sue Jones here to share with you the findings of that latest survey.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Jones and members of the City Council. I'm very pleased to review the results of the community survey with you. The purpose of this survey was to gather feedback from our residents regarding city services and programs to better inform our efforts to meet the needs of our community. The survey included questions about specific services and programs, and it also included questions about overall quality of life in Victorville. And as City Manager mentioned, we worked with an external firm, Zen City, to conduct this survey. Here is an executive summary of the survey. It basically gives you the high points of the most notable things to take away from the survey. As you can see, 46% of respondents felt the quality of life in Victorville was fair. 23% felt it was excellent, but 30% felt it was poor. Nearly 50% of the respondents would not recommend Victorville as a place to live, but 45% thought they would still be living here 5 years from now. Things that residents love about Victorville: it's rural, close to lots of natural open spaces. However, they do want to feel safer in our city. And they are very satisfied with the services offered by our fire department, but less satisfied with how we deal with homelessness. They'd like to see us invest more in homelessness solutions and road maintenance. And I'm going to go into the methodology just a little bit for you. The survey was conducted between May 17th and June 30th. It was delivered to residents digitally in both English and Spanish. It was promoted independently by Zen City through digital ads, but we also promoted it through city platforms. We used a press release, social media, our digital newsletter, our website to try to get folks to take the survey and provide their feedback. The responses we received, the sample size was statistically significant. We received 483 responses via the Zen City pushed ads, and we received another 295 responses via city channels. And I will tell you that the data was weighted based on our census data. And this is an explanation, and I'm going to do my best to give you a very good thumbnail, so what on rate weighting. Basically, this is a technique used in survey research, and the company took our census data and looked at what our demographics look like in the city of Victorville, and they compared it to the sample received. And they wanted to make sure that that sample was reflective of our population. If there was a group that was underrepresented in the sample, they overweighted their responses a little bit to make sure that they were adequately representing what our city of Victorville looks like. Okay, and here's just a question about overall quality of life in Victorville. And you can see that 23% rated the quality of life as excellent. Nearly 50% feel that the quality of life in Victorville is fair, while 30% think that it is poor. And here's the question about likelihood of actually recommending Victorville as a place to live. And you can see that half of the respondents said they are unlikely, or nearly half said they're unlikely to recommend Victorville as a place to live, while 31% are very likely and 22% are neutral on this question. Here's the question about continuing their time here in Victorville, and you can see that nearly half expect to be continuing to live here 5 years from now. This is an open-ended question about what folks say their favorite thing about living in the city of Victorville are. And you can see the top 3 things: nature, park, open spaces, rural feel, the affordable living. And I wanted to call, the next one, I'll call your attention to something specific. Here's the question about what do you want to see change in Victorville? And here, these are the things that we've already noted. People want to see a reduction in crime, a reduction in homelessness, but they want to see more activities and amenities. And if you look at those purple boxes, those are some sample open-ended responses that people like typed into the survey. I wanted to call your attention to the top right-hand purple box. You can see someone actually called out our homeless shelter, our wellness center. And then what else did there was another one I wanted to call out to you. Oh yeah, on the right-hand bottom corner, you could see that people want to see a new library. And that's one of the things you're already beginning to speak about here in the council. Here's calling out specific services where folks were asked to rate their satisfaction level with the various services. And you could see there we have the fire department ranks very high. Also environmental and sanitation services, animal care and control, information and city technology, coming in there around the 4th, 5th, middle area. And then if you want to look at, again, folks are calling out homelessness solutions as something that they're dissatisfied with, and they want to see more road maintenance, and they want to they're dissatisfied with economic development. Here are the top 5. This is an interesting question because this actually asked them to put the money where the mouth is. This is asking them, what do you think the most important services you want the city to invest in? And you can see homelessness solutions at the very top, road maintenance, police department, and these are lining up with the things that folks are saying they're dissatisfied with. This is very interesting and telling. This basically is showing that to a T, no matter what your demographic is, no matter where you live, your number one priority, according to the responses, is homelessness solutions right across the board. This is also interesting. This is showing what your high satisfaction, high priority, low satisfaction correlation. So basically you can see the things that people are the least satisfied with are the things that are actually the highest priority. So that would be homelessness solutions, road maintenance, parks and recreation, police department, and economic development. And that's that top left reddish colored box. Here's a summary. This is just a snapshot, basically recapping everything we just talked about. You can see the satisfaction with the various services on the left, the overall rating of the quality of life in the top right corner, and then the ranking of the services they'd like to see the city invest in. Here's a summary of the favorite things: nature and parks, rural feel, affordable, things to change, reduce crime, reduce homelessness, and give us more activities, amenities. And I added this slide. All the other slides were from Sun City, but I decided to add this slide because I wanted to do a crosswalk to show you all the priorities that were identified in the survey as they link up or match up to the strategies or the primary goals in your strategic plan. And you could see several of the things that the residents are talking about are the same things that we're working on. So I wanted to show that to you. And that's it.
All right, thank you. And so Before I ask the clerk to read the recommendation, Mr. Metzler, did you want to add anything to the presentation?
Nothing further for me to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So Madam Clerk, the recommendation, please.
That the Honorable City Council receive and file this report.
Thank you. And we're going to move on to questions for clarification as it relates to the survey and the presentation, beginning with Member Becerra.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not taken from the PIO office or Zen City, but about 105, roughly 1,000 residents we have now, or 107.
It's 135.
35,000 residents. Only 483 people are telling us that what we know.
Plus the 295.
Well, I'm sorry.
So it's
778. Not taking anything from Zen City. Some of the stuff what we're already investing $29 million in a wellness center. We're investing all that we can in our roads, all that's available to us, because again, the high gas prices and everything has caused gas taxes to go down. Let's ask our residents, the other 135,000 besides the 483 that did the survey. We want to hear what you have to say, the good and the bad. Everything here in front of us, we're addressing. We are. So like I said, it's not to you and it's not to them. It's to the public hearing that we know we have bad roads. We're addressing our roadways. We know we have a homeless problem. We're addressing our homeless problem as fast as we can. So, you know, ask the public hearing when they do call and you're eating dinner, I get it. Say, give me a minute, I'll answer your question. Because that's when they call. But thank you very much for the survey.
Thank you, Member Becerra. Member Gomez.
Yes. Will we be utilizing a portion of any or all of the 1.1 million for the community roads that we were talking about in agenda number 11? Do we know about that?
We did spell that out separately in the staff report of that item where that money goes on page 264.
So does that mean we are considering incorporating the 1.1 million grant from SBCTA to things that we've addressed here today, potentially?
Not specifically,
Okay.
though it would factor in.
And just for a point of clarification, the SBCTA monies that we're making a claim on is not a grant.
So I'm sorry, Mr. Mensler, I missed the last part of it. What did you say for the LTF? The 1.1 million? You said not specifically, but then you said something afterwards. I missed that part.
But that does go towards our budget, which does speak to some of the goals here.
Okay. Will this survey be duplicated annually as a priority check to have like a checklist for things that may seem like their weaknesses?
It could be. This is a good baseline beginning. And then we could come in and survey, you know, maybe a year from now, or we could do it 2 years from now, whatever we think is a good timing. But that option is available to us. We would get charged for it, but we could certainly do that.
And would you explain how that weight of an individual vote was processed again?
Yeah. So my best understanding, and I'm not the expert, but I did look it up and I got them to explain it to me several times, is it is a technique. It's also referred to as sample balancing. And so basically you want to make sure that the sample that you got in, to Councilmember Becerra's point, you only got 483 surveys from Zen City and then 295 via, you know, the city platform. So do these 700 and some people reflect the demographics of the city of Victorville? So what they did is they took the census data for the city of Victorville and looked at that demographic data, and then they looked at the sample data. And then if there was a group that was underrepresented, then they weighted their responses a little bit more. If they were overrepresented, then they underrepresented their responses a little bit more, just to make sure that their responses were reflective of our population.
And since we're looking at this survey, do you think it's possible to implement it within the yearly budget, or is, I heard that we're already implementing it?
Well, this was something that we had budgeted previously. And so we did use this, and I should tell you too, that we got it as a significant discount because we're an early adopter of this pulse technology from Zen City. But we could certainly look to include it in, next year's budget.
Okay, and you were referring to a quadrant when you were explaining in the coloration. I wanted to know if that was pertinent to what's called a SWOT analysis, which calls strengths, weaknesses, opportunities. It seemed like it was, but I'm not sure.
I think you could say that it's very similar. It's very similar. You're saying what were the pain points? What were the things that were, of greatest challenge?
Yes.
And then that ended up reflective to also be the things that people wanted us to prioritize. So I would say it's very similar.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Member Gomez. Mayor Pro Tem.
I think I probably have more comments than questions. First of all, I don't know whose idea this was, but it's a great idea. What's telling is I like the last page. It's really important and it's impressive when the citizens of a community, their top priorities are reflected in its government's or this council's strategic plan. So that means that we are listening, staff and this council, you always said we're interested in your ideas, and we are indeed. So I actually think this is a great report, and it's a good way to measure how effective we are in addressing the needs and the sentiments of the community. I hope we continue to do this. And I don't have anything else to say. I was curious about the results because I always like to know how well I'm doing or where I need to improve. And so we definitely have some work to be done, but we're all on the same page. And that for me is very exciting as a member of the Victorville community, this city, and as a council person. So thank you very much. And I did indeed enjoy your presentation. And what is it called? Rake waiting?
Rake waiting.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. All right, well, since, normally this is the period for asking questions, but I know that in a previous agenda item, I kind of did more commenting than turning something into a question. So this item kind of calls for comments when you can make them. All right, so I wasn't surprised by this report. I mean, I've having been on a school board for 8 years and now the council for 4 years, I've seen many surveys, and it's always been my experience that, people use it sometimes as a way to vent their frustrations. And I get that. And I also know that, once there's a reputation, as it were, for being deficient in certain areas, in this prior council, certainly when we requested a public safety, a comprehensive report, and we came up with the public safety plan. We knew that we were woefully behind the public safety curve, and that led to Measure P. And so that's working out really, really well. Same thing with the Homelessness Solutions Task Force that thankfully the council quickly greenlighted my idea on that. And now that's leading us to the Wellness Center, which in turn is now going to help us strike that balance that we need in being able to enforce our anti-camping laws. And so this much I do know is that when you have a reputation that's not so great in certain areas, that's a big ship to turn around. And you can be doing great things long before the word really gets out. And so I think that this survey really speaks to that a bit. But I do like the fact that, thank you, in your report that you tied it directly to our strategic plan. Which is in line, of course, with our vision, mission, goals, right? And we do have a blueprint for success that we got all of the input from our stakeholders. As I recall, it was employees, it was community members, it was business partners, it was—
Your time is up.
Thank you. All of that. So, all right. So thank you very much. And with that said, the chair invites a motion to receive and file this report.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. I have a first and a second discussion on the pending motion. Mayor Pro Tem.
I think it's all been said.
Yes, ma'am. Member Becerra. Thank you, Member Gomez.
Yes, absolutely. It's very difficult, we have to cast our votes and bring opinions, and sometimes our opinions could be drastically different when we don't have definitions, but I do thank you for definitely tying it in and making some more sense directly. No further anything. Thank you.
Thank you. And so now I'm going to finish my comments. So because it's on the pending motion. So, same thing on the homelessness solutions. And that was highlighted throughout this. And that's a huge thing to take on. And I remember, first being on the council, and that was one of the things that I really wanted to talk about. And not to say that the city wasn't going in the right direction doing it, but I really thought it was important to speed it up. And I'm thankful for the council that I work with that they green lighted that. So anyway, I think it's all good. We are moving in the right direction. It's a big ship to turn around, but I know staff here is working 110% to get it done for our community. I'm very, very thankful. So with that, Chair closes the discussion period. And Madam Clerk, will you please take the vote?
Councilmember Becerra. Councilmember Gomez.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
Yes.
Mayor Jones.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. All right, so we've received and filed that report. We are now going to move on to item number 15, the city manager reports. Mr. Metzler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. Yes, I do have a few items in speaking to our homelessness efforts. There's a couple items there that we'd like to report on. First being that we had actually worked out an arrangement with VBTA's Fair Media program where they've actually selected us to receive 700 day passes for our homelessness efforts, particularly and more directly benefiting those that are actually sheltered at West Winds and ultimately at our new wellness facility downtown, where those day fare passes will be used to provide access along the VBTA system to other locations along their network throughout the city. So improving transportation to those that are in need is certainly the objective there. Then secondly, we've been helpful in helping facilitate a relationship between Simba Center and the California University of Science and Medicine in Colton. They've actually bridged a relationship formally at our at our Westwind Center, and ultimately we're expecting it to be a part of the Wellness Center downtown, to where now with the on-site clinic effectively that Simba Center offers, they'll actually be able to bring students in from the medical school to help get some hands-on direct experience. So that's something that we're really excited about. Of course, many of us know, but for those that don't, our Fall Festival is coming up quickly. That's our annual street fair, and it is back, come out to celebrate with family and community on October 1st, 11:30 to 6:30 here at City Hall. We'll be closing down Civic Drive. Lots of booths, lots of entertainment. Certainly looking forward to reactivating that annual event. On the building side, used to be the former swap meet, but for some of us, we might remember it as the old Builders Emporium on 7th and La Paz. We actually have tenant improvements issued there for Superior Grocers. So that's a new project coming online. So with that, that's all I have at this time, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Metzler. All right, item number 16, this is discussion and possible action regarding upcoming agenda items. Member Gomez.
Yes. So I would like to see in the next 30 days, an agenda that addresses the ethics 1, 2, 3 mandatory courses, along with any other courses that are mandatory for the council to take.
Is there a second? Hearing no second, motion fails. Anything else, Member Gomez?
No.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
When we start last meeting,
Yes.
it's not good. Well,
We're going to be at Christmas almost.
You're looking forward to October. I know I am.
council to recognize this is Latino Heritage Month, that it's the last meeting.
Can you speak into your microphone?
Yeah,
please?
no.
I'm sorry, I'm big on the diversity calendar, so
Okay.
Yeah, we've kind of missed it, but I appreciate your point. And I've been actually talking to Mr. Metzler about bringing to the council a formal recurring calendar of
Yes,
things that we can put together. So that would be good. All right. Did you have anything else?
I don't. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
you bet. I know you didn't. Member Becerra. All right. And I had something, but I'm gonna pass it to the next meeting because it's certainly not a priority in terms of everything else. So this is the third time I've done that. All right, so let's move on to item number 17, and this is reports from council members, beginning with Member Gomez.
Yes, absolutely. It's always a pleasure to have enough ample time, even as a doctoral candidate, to knock and meet people face to face. Have a lot of letter writing campaigns to many agencies, which always bumps up the soft skills and the hard skills that I've required to help my community-based membership. It never changes. The time that I've put out there, whether it's for a meeting, whether it's recorded, or whether it's meeting with one-on-one or multiple families, not just in Victorville, by the way, all over the region, it's something that I'm passionate, and it's very involving. Sometimes there is no pay, meaning it comes out of my own pocket. I'd never asked for any kind of compensation. And the joy that I have from receiving someone else, the writing skills to be able to follow either a complaint or some kind of contented gesture is really important. And that's how hopefully our community continues to have members in certain regards, maybe not one-on-one door knocking, but definitely wherever they are. So hopefully that becomes an example for my colleagues to continue to do. I'm sure they're representing their members as best as possible as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Gomez. Member Becerra.
To the staff of the city of Victorville, from the top all the way down, thank you. You put us here. You helped make our job easier sitting up here. Your staff reports, everything you do. To the guys, to the employees that are out in the field, thank you. I know it's hot, I know it's cold, I know it's rough, but thank you very much for doing everything. City Hall staff, same thing. Thank you for your backup, what you guys give us. You make us shine up here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Member Becerra. Mayor Pro Tem.
I would like to echo Councilwoman Becerra's sentiments. Yes, staff, you guys do an excellent job. I'm honored to work with you, and other than that, I don't have anything I want to share. Thank you.
Thank you. And I certainly join in the comments of the last two council members who spoke. I'll just had actually had a lot of things going on, but very few that I am going to report here. So in terms of meetings, I attended the first ever Measure I ad hoc committee meeting, and one of the main points of that was for each city. This is with SBCTA, so it's a regional meeting. We each presented our five top priorities for projects that we wanted to get done post 2040 when Measure I sunsets. Little difficult to do because we don't know what might be completed before then, but at least it was a preliminary discussion. Also attended the SBCTA General Policy Committee meeting, the VVWRA meeting, CPD Grant Committee meeting with my colleague, Member Becerra, and the High Desert Hispanic Chamber of Commerce meeting. We all, two of my colleagues anyway, and I and some staff attended the League of California Cities Conference in Long Beach. And as the voting delegate there, I voted in favor of some minor amendments to the bylaws. None of them were substantive. They were just very basic cleanup language. And with that, I have nothing further. And so with that, this meeting is adjourned, and thank you. If everyone will kindly vacate council members within 10 minutes, that's at 8:16, so that the premises can be cleaned and secured for the evening. And members of the public are not permitted behind the dais. Again, this meeting is adjourned.